G'day, George again. I'm here with the 20th of March 2026 edition of Message of Hope. My first real estate job lasted only 4 months. One sale only, I did. The message came not from the director but from the accountant. Something about being too expensive to keep me. And I remember thinking, the accountant, of course. Not even the person who hired me, which was the director. The person who looked at the spreadsheet, found my name, drew a line through it. That is it. At that time, I was really brand new to the industry. The training had been really minimal at best. Anyway, the director ran Monday mornings in meetings in a way I would describe charitably, nicely as volatile, because it can be very explosive. Anyway, none of that is an excuse, I think. Like I said, one sale in 4 months is one sale in 4 months, right? I can't change the fact. But the feeling, that particular hollowness, when someone has looked at your contribution and decided it doesn't justify the cost of keeping you around. I thought about that feeling again recently. You see, I watched a video on X lately. Do you know that company called Atlassian? Well, you might know them as the company behind Jira. Well, they announced that they were cutting roughly 10% of their workforce. And that's around 1,600 positions. The reason given was restructuring to invest further in artificial intelligence. Yeah, I've used Jira, the last workplace. Now, the co-CEO, Mike Cannon-Brookes, made the announcement himself on camera. I watched the video, I watched his face, and my first thought wasn't theological. No. It wasn't coherent. It was just, sadness, a quiet, sinking sadness. And I thought to myself, oh, please, not another round of this, please, of retrenchment. Because 1,600 to me isn't just a number. No. It's 1,600 versions of that hollow feeling that I know well before. It's 1,600 people opening their phones and reading something they weren't ready to read, perhaps. It's 1,600 conversations with a spouse, maybe, that nobody wants to have. Yes, it's 1,600 Monday mornings that now feel different. And then a comment appeared under the video. Very interesting. Someone had written, if you didn't spend $120 million on a private jet, you could have saved those jobs. Now, I can't verify that figure. And I want to be straight with you. I don't know Mike. Personally, I'm not. And I'm not in a position to judge what he earns or what he spends. Because genuinely, that is none of my business, for sure. But the question underneath that comment wouldn't leave me alone. Is there greed involved? Are people drunk on power and fortune? At what point does accumulation stop being stewardship and become something else entirely? And when you reach the very top, when you've built what most people can only imagine, what actually comes next? Really, just how much is enough? How much? I mean, really, how much? You can see I've been thinking about it, right? Well, I kept returning to that, not because it was a theological exercise. It's just a question that refused to settle. And then I wasn't looking for a passage, but this one arrived. This one came to mind, thanks to the Holy Spirit. As Matthew chapter 4, verse 8 to 10. You see, Satan takes Jesus to a very high mountain, shows him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. Every empire, every market, every company, every fortune that's been around. Every human ambition has ever dreamed of accumulating. And Satan laid it bare at his feet. He says, all these I will give you if you fall down and worship. Sorry, there was a dog running towards me. That's interesting. Anyway, Jesus said no, because he's God. Now come on, the one person in history could have had taken the whole world, looked at it and walked away. That is our Jesus. Because he understood what receiving it would cost. What he would have to bow down to. What he would slowly, acquisition by acquisition, become. There are leaders who have said yes to a version of that offer. Not because they are evil, not because no, most of them aren't. But because nobody stood at the bottom of that mountain to remind them what they were agreeing to. What they were beginning to worship. And once you start bowing, it's very, very hard to stop. Which brings me to the passage I keep returning to, and that's Mark chapter 8 verse 36. Listen to what he says. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? And paraphrase for those people, what does a woman profit to gain the whole world and forfeit her soul? Okay, you can interpret that way. So one sentence, Jesus asked it. 2,000 years of human achievement have not produced a satisfying answer, has it? Not because people have tried. Oh, they've tried with extraordinary creativity and discipline. They've acquired more and more and more. Apparently convinced that the next acquisition will finally close the question. I don't think so. It doesn't. It just raises it louder. What does it profit a man? Profit is a business world. Jesus chose it deliberately because he is speaking the language of the boardroom. And then pulling the camera back, so far the boardroom disappears entirely. You've optimized everything, you've extracted maximum value, you've restructured and reinvested and grown the position. That's what business is about. But don't forget, you forfeit your soul in some cases. What have you actually built? Now I want to show you what a different answer to that question looks. I'm borrowing from an unlikely place. Hear me out. Pretty Woman. Do you remember that movie from 1990? Richard Gere plays Edward Lewis, a corporate raider he was. His method: acquire struggling companies, break them apart, sell pieces for maximum return. Now that's efficient and is profitable. And somewhere in the film, something cracks open in him, you see. He meets the man whose company he's about to dismantle. A man who built something with his hands, who has workers, families and mortgages perhaps. Well, Lewis makes a different choice. Decides to build rather than break. Yes, it's Hollywood, I know. But the moment it captures it, it's real. Yeah, there's a version of leadership that asks, how do I maximize the return? And there's a version that asks, what do I owe the people whose lives are threaded through what I've built? And that's a very relevant question in this present climate. There's just retrenchments, job losses, layoffs, left, right and center. I'm seeing it all around. Those two questions don't always point in the same direction. And the one you answer quietly, habitually over the years, tells you something about what you've been bound down to. Now, I'm going to say this. The AI disruption is not staying in the boardroom. It is moving through every industry, every level, and every role that can be performed at a much lower cost by a machine. Although I don't think it's perfect yet. It may already be moving towards you, perhaps. And the most practical thing you can do right now, before it arrives, is please be prepared. Here's my solutions. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, sitting somewhere accessible. Right? You got to save up. It's got to be liquid. Maybe it's boring and completely unglamorous. Sitting there. But sitting there right up until the day it isn't. Alright? I've navigated job losses with that buffer in place. The difference between a crisis and a setback is often nothing more dramatic than that one decision made in a quiet season before the difficult one arrived. But here's what matters more than the emergency fund. Are you ready? The most important preparation anyone can make at any income level, in any industry, facing any disruption, is to get right with Jesus. Not after the finances are sorted. No, don't wait for that. Not once you feel ready. You're not going to be ever ready. But the decision is now. 1,600 people who got the news this week, they're real people. They have mortgages, they have families to feed, and they have that hollow feeling. Now I know something of that feeling. 4 months, one sale, the account drew a line through my name, and here's what I've concluded. God knew about that job before I took it. He knew about the one that came after. He was not surprised by any of it. No, he's not surprised by what happened at Atlassian this week either. Now that doesn't make it painless, but it does make it navigable. Friends, whether you're the one clearing the desk this week or the one who signed the memo, hear one more time. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? Both of you are standing in front of that question right now perhaps. Both of you need the same answer. And neither of you has to earn it. Alright guys, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this video far and wide. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!